Hello and welcome to another tutorial of Autodesk Fusion Lifecycle Cloud PDM functionality. My name is Brian Shannon, and in this tutorial we're going to go through the different revision pinning policies available within Fusion Lifecycle. Within Autodesk Fusion Lifecycle we have several different revision pinning policies or options. This is used most often with revision controlled items like the Item and Bill of Materials workspace. You'll see this used on the Attachments tab, and we have three different types when you attach something. We have an on-lock option, to version, and float. And note that on-lock is the default option if you do nothing, if you don't go in and modify it. So coming up in this tutorial, you're going to see three different options. We'll make an item and we'll attach three different Word docs, and these are also part of the data set that is in the tutorial under the trial section in the help system, so you can follow along at your leisure. So let's go take a look. Back inside of Fusion Lifecycle, and specifically over on the Data tab, what we're going to do is upload some data using the Connected Desktop utility into our folder and file area under a project called Reciprocating Saw. And then we're going to go through and attach that to an item that we have over here inside of Fusion Lifecycle. So for that, let's go and take a look. So if you remember this from an earlier tutorial, we had a number of sample data files that we can use. In this case, I'm just going to keep it real simple and use a bunch of Word doc files. And we're going to create some folder structure over here, drag it over, take a look at versioning. So if you want, follow along. If not, sit back and let's take a look at how all of this works. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is over in our connected desktop, remember that's the hub drive, and I have my trial, I've got the reciprocating saw. Right at the root of reciprocating saw, I'm going to create a new folder called document. And now as soon as I go in and create that, it's going to start to synchronize up with Fusion Team and replicate that up. Okay, so switching over to Fusion Team up inside of the Data tab, here we see we have the reciprocating saw project. We have our Inventor and SolidWorks dataset that we uploaded in a previous tutorial, and here's the Documents folder that I created out in Windows Explorer, and here are the three Word docs that I created. So here's the float example, and if you click on these will actually render out, just like the CAD files show in a viewer. Here's the Word docs, I'll close that down, unlock, to version, float, real simple examples of this. And now keep in mind, you can follow along, you can create your own, and then later on we can turn this up and start to apply this to larger files or CAD files, etc. So let's take a look at then how these attach to an item inside of the Item and Bill of Materials workspace inside of Fusion Lifecycle. So back to the dashboard inside of Fusion Lifecycle, there's a couple different ways you can get here. First, we've set up these trials, and here's actually the sample item for revision pinning. So it's bookmarked here. You can search for it, or you can actually go, there's a document ready to go. There's a change order ready to go for this document release. So either way that you want to get there, get to the item and bill of material. Now once on the item itself, the sample item, go to the Attachments tab. All right, and I want you to click on the Add button. An add is actually going to go out and it's going to go into your data area, and it's going to look for folders and files. You can search through different projects. I want you to go to the Documents folder, and I want you to add all three, float, unlock, and to version. Add all of these, like so. Now we're not done yet. We're going to go in and actually edit the revision pinning policy of all of these. Now, as I mentioned, the unlock is the default, which is why all of these are set. So let's leave unlock, but on this one, the to version, if you go and click right on the word unlock, here's the drop down. So make that one to version. We'll leave this one. And then this last one down here, float. Let's let that. So now let's go and actually put this through a change order. So if we go over to the related changes tab, you'll see that there's already a change order in here bound and waiting for you. If you're doing this tutorial later on, maybe somebody's already gone through it, you can just go and create a new one. You can use the actions menu and do a quick create, but since this is already bound to one, let's go over to that change order and push this through. So this next part is pretty easy. You've seen this before in another tutorial. We're actually going to go through the different workflow actions. I'm going to go and submit this to work. And we'll move this along. We'll get into the review state. And the one that we're looking for is to approve and close. So now this particular change order is approved, it's closed. Looking at the affected item, I come in here, drag this a little bit more. It's now at revision A. So let's go and actually see what that looks like back on the item. All right, so now back at the item, take a look, it's at revision A. It's locked. And down here, the three different attachments that we have, if we hover this tooltip over, we see that the pinning policy 2 version, well, this particular A bound to version 1 because we told it to. On lock almost looks like the same, but what's different with on lock is that occurred as version 1 was the latest and greatest at the time of lock. That's the one that it bound to. And down here, the float example isn't bound to anything. And what that means is it will always consume the latest version that's out in Fusion Team or your data store or in connected desktop. So this all looks good. Now let's go and take it to the next level and actually create some other versions and revise this to revision B. That's where it gets interesting.